quando o bebê chega ao mundo, tem uma emoção. Que ele tá sabendo que tá aquela vida que a gente tá ajudando a vir ao mundo. É uma vitória. Já é uma vida a mais para seguir nossa tradição. Vamos pedir primeiramente a Deus, Nossa Senhora do Bom Parto, e nossa força encantada, e nossas parteiras que Deus já levou, para que nos ajude nesse momento, desse parto de Cíntia, para ela ficar com saúde e o bebê dela.
I know you can hear everyone talking. They're all talking about you. You're like the center of attention. It's a great feeling to know that you can have another life inside of you, that you have the ability to create a being, to feel the movements of the baby and the kicks and, you know, actually seeing them for yourself and feeling them is a great feeling. I feel somewhat of a superwoman to know that I can create a miniature, so to speak, of me, you know?
Se a voz das mulheres no parto é uma voz ancestral, uma voz profunda, uma voz que fortalece não só a mulher, mas fortalece toda a humanidade. Uma mulher que está parindo com dignidade num canto é uma luz que acende para o mundo inteiro.
From the very beginning of life, the mom and the baby should be together. They should have a strong foundation, build their confidence, their capacity and power to feed the future with their enormous wealth, which is God-given. And it is not only food, but it is also medicine, which is breastfeeding. And we always hope that they will give what is the innate power of their resources. It should not be the corporate greed that should feed the future, but it should be the mothers.
Look at the whole issue of child survival. What families go through when they lose a child, and the joy they have when their children are able to grow strong and healthy. The individual child has lifelong benefits. Benefits we cannot deny this child, benefits as countries of the world we must protect.
Quando eu peguei menino, ainda era uma mulherzinha nova, porque a primeira barriga que eu peguei foi de uma mulher que eu estava em casa. Mas hoje em dia tem muita gente que agora tem doutor, tem doutora, mas no tempo dos caboclos aqui, não existia doutor não. O doutor primeiramente era Nossa Senhora do Desterro, Nossa Senhora do Parque, meu pai de Alcide do Juazeiro, minha mãe de Emendadura. Eu via ela estudinha e dava saúde, felicidade e para ter tudo em paz, graças a Deus.
Que aqui nós temos uma tradição indígena que nós faz nosso ritual, nós faz nossas danças, nós faz nossas culturas, sempre unidos. Para nós, Pancararu, é muito forte a força. Eu comecei a fazer esse trabalho de parteira, eu tinha 18 anos, que está com 31 anos que eu estou fazendo esse trabalho. E aqui já tem as aprendizes de parteira, elas já fazem o parto. Elas já realizam muito bem esse serviço.
Toda mulherzinha que ela pegar, Deus ajudar, dar um bom parto a ela, das crianças. A mulher na mão dela nunca morreu nenhuma de parto, nem menina abafada, nem menina afogada.
Por ter passado o seu conhecimento, sua inteligência. A senhora é uma mulher sábia.
E
toda
Deus,
a vida
Deus
construiu
me proteja. Deus te proteja, minha filha. Deus que dê muitos anos de vida e saúde e felicidade.
Amém, senhora, também.
Deus te livre de todos os perigos contra minha filha. E toda a família, toda a geração.
I'm very excited because I know that the time is coming. I'm getting very prepared, and I just feel that in a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3, that will be the time, but I can't really foretell the future because you never know. You might say one thing and then something else happens. I'm preparing myself to stand up. I'm currently writing my birth plan, how I want the process to go. I'm gonna tell them I want this, I don't want this, and I want them to follow that because they still have to do their job and I still have to do my job. At the end of the day, is how I feel and it's how comfortable I want to be. So I'm gonna be very demanding. So my name is Keela McLean, and I wish to be with my mother during the process, just me and her. And I plan to have a natural birth. I wish to breastfeed as soon as possible after birth. Yeah, that's all I have so far. And then there's another one. I just hope everything goes how I envisioned it to go.
Les sociétés, les époques, les générations créent des nouveaux modèles de comportement maternel, féminin. Les modèles changent d'une génération à l'autre sur la façon d'être mère et bonne mère. Et au fond, ce sont des contraintes sur beaucoup de femmes. Certaines femmes, pour elles, la maternité, c'est une évidence. Ça vient naturellement, c'est une évidence, c'est pas un problème. Pour d'autres, c'est un problème, ça suppose une adaptation qui n'est pas souvent facile. Et donc, il ne faut pas traiter les femmes comme des femelles animales qui font toutes la même chose. Chaque femme est une personne particulière, qui a des désirs particuliers, une histoire différente des autres.
La course à pied, c'est comme l'allaitement, c'est une partie de ma vie quotidienne. J'ai une formation de base en ingénieur en mécanique. C'est là où j'ai rencontré mon mari. Après, j'ai arrêté de travailler quand mon premier enfant est né. Je l'ai allaité, pas assez longtemps à mon goût, j'avais pas beaucoup d'informations, j'avais pas beaucoup de soutien.
I decided beforehand that I was going to bottle feed for a number of reasons. One, I had a breast reduction when I was 23, and I was told at the time that I may not be able to breastfeed. And I knew that at the time, and I've known that since, and that's always it's always been in my head. So maybe I had adjusted my thoughts a long time ago, and I just always knew that was what my experience was going to be.
Mon amour pour l'allaitement a commencé avec mon premier allaitement. Une fois que je me suis plainte à mon mari que j'avais trop de lait, que je pourrais nourrir un deuxième enfant, il m'a dit « Mais pourquoi tu tires pas pour donner au lactarium ?»
Mais si, il y en a dans l'eau. Mon bisou.
Je pense que c'est là où j'ai pris conscience que le lait maternel avait une valeur spéciale, qui sauve les vies des prématurés. Après, j'ai eu un deuxième enfant, 3 ans plus tard. J'ai décidé de l'allaiter plus longtemps. J'ai donné aussi du lait au lactarium. C'est là où, en fait, je suis tombée sur Facebook, sur des groupes qui offraient de l'information, du soutien, de façon tout à fait naturelle.
Go in. Here. I didn't feel, for me personally, and for my family, it was the best decision for us. My husband has not been around a lot of children before we were pregnant. I knew that he would need to have some good quality time with his son without feeling like he's being watched without other people around. And I think bottle feeding would give him that experience. I also know that I need time away. I need time away from my son. I need time away from my husband. I need time for myself. My husband and I are able to continue to develop our own relationship outside of just the two of us with our son. I did a lot of research before I made my decision. I did read about the benefits of breastfeeding. When I weighed the benefits versus some of the downfalls, it was still a decision I felt confident about for my family.
Sur Facebook, je me suis rendu compte qu'on pouvait allaiter en fait jusqu'à ce que l'enfant se sèvre lui-même. Donc c'est ce que j'ai fait avec mon deuxième enfant. Elle avait 13 mois quand je suis devenue enceinte de mon troisième enfant. Donc j'ai allaité pendant la grossesse. J'ai allaité les 2 enfants ensemble, toujours à la très grande surprise de ma mère qui ne savait pas non plus qu'on pouvait allaiter un nouveau-né et un grand de 2 ans. En France, il n'y a que 5% des bébés qui sont encore allaités à 4 mois. Donc non, c'est sûr, allaiter à 4 ans, c'est pas du tout la norme.
Et voilà, c'est bon?
J'ai bien apprécié ce lien, ce côté attachement entre le bébé et la maman qui allaite sur des mois, puis sur des années.
Faut tourner, oui, vas-y.
Et donc depuis la naissance de ma fille, qui a 5 ans et demi, j'ai allaité en continu, sans interruption. Ma petite a bientôt 4 ans, mais bon, on verra encore combien de temps ça va durer, c'est elle qui décide.
Every child has a right to basic nutrition. Nutrition is a gift that every government must give to their children and protect it. Prevention is better than cure. It is also cheaper. Look at the long-term benefits. This is lifelong, and this we cannot deny our children.
Since 1948, when WHO was established, the number of deaths in the world have been dramatically reduced. But there's been a bit of a shift in the type of deaths that we see now. We have seen a reduction of the deaths due to infectious diseases, but now we see more deaths from chronic diseases. A lot of the children under 5 don't make it. There are many ways to stop this epidemic. One of them is really starting a good nutrition from very early in life.
I was at the district hospital. I would see many babies coming in, malnourished, with diarrhea. When we would go into the root cause, it was all about bottle feeding and artificial feeding. So I really looked at it and said, this I must address in order to promote child survival and development.
Good nutrition is a preventive measure throughout the life, but particularly in the first period of life, since conception. Good nutrition starts with early initiation of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding should be initiated in the first hour of life.
The way it reduces child mortality is amazing in terms of not only proportions, but numbers. Many countries now are struggling with childhood obesity. Many countries are struggling with diabetes at very early ages, earlier than ever before in history. And look at the cancers. Why? Because they have never protected breastfeeding.
Doctors, health workers do not get good training in nutrition, and particularly infant nutrition. That's something which is missing in medical curricula, is not receiving the right attention, and we would need to have better trained health workers.
They studied medicine, but they have never studied fully the first food of humanity, which is breastfeeding. They were not taught about the risks of formula milk feeding, about relactation, about how to preserve expressed breast milk if you are working.
There's the lack of support from the obstetricians, the lack of education on the nurses' parts and the doctors' parts in the hospital after the birth. And what often determines that they have problems is how many interventions we have during labor and birth, which cause problems with breastfeeding. And then when they run into all these problems, sore nipples, the baby doesn't take the breast, the baby's not getting enough milk from the breast, the baby's got colic, the answer to everything is just give the baby formula. And it's not surprising how many mothers have difficulty with breastfeeding. There are clinics in many cities that help mothers. The problem with some of these clinics is that there's a wide variety of people in the breastfeeding clinics. Some of them have just the very basics and they don't know how to deal with difficult problems.
I'm here today after having gone to 3 different lactation consultants and doctors and nurses and getting the advice from breastfeeding clinics prior to even having the baby. I've received a lot of confusing and conflicting information, so I've gotten to the point where I've become quite frustrated with all of that and trying all these different things that nothing really seems to make sense. I had been trying a lot of the techniques that I was told to use and that should work, and I was feeling in my gut that, you know, something is still not right.
Something that's so critical to a newborn's very survival, feeding. We are not trained to know anything about it. It's across the board. Anybody dealing with a breastfeeding mother, we are all undereducated in this area. We say and do and talk about things that are not evidence-based. In the end, we destroy mothers and their breastfeeding. We undermine them. We disempower them. Really, we should trust the mother's body to know what to do with birth. We should trust that it's going to go well, for the most part. However, when the baby comes out, all of a sudden we don't trust the mother's body anymore. Now we must overregulate it. We must put it into rules. We must say, oh, no, 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 you must follow these rules. You must do it this way. Whatever happened to the trusting of the body?
O parto humanizado aqui na nossa área, para nós é muito importante, que a gente quer ver nascer. É uma tradição o parto domicílio. Isso é normal, que sua mão não está inchada, o seu rosto não está inchado e a sua pressão está boa. Isso aí mais é por causa do peso. Uhum. Esperar a natureza fazer a parte dela, né? Depois a gente fazer a nossa. Quando for, não sei que hora é essa, então quando for abaixo de umas 8 horas, a gente vem aqui de novo, então. Para saber se você já está em dilatação. Tiana, eu já fui na casa de Cíntia, né? E ela não está em trabalho de parto, não tem dilatação. Pressão tá boa, batimento, tá tudo ótimo. Só tá esperando a natureza agir. Vamos fazer nossas preces, agora pedir a Deus em primeiro lugar, a nossos pais velhos para nos ajudar e a gente vai trabalhar daqui a pouco, a vez no trabalho, a vez da cinta, vamos puxar a vez aqui o antes para os pais velhos nos proteger, nos ajudar nessa vez. Seja graças a Deus.
So with my first two were natural, on birthday. I knew they were coming, they came, they were wonderful. And then I thought that was gonna happen with my third, especially even faster, like it was just gonna spit out. She was actually a week late and they wanted to induce. I said, no, we're gonna wait. Finally, I started having some contractions. I said, amazing, let's go. And there were a lot of women waiting in the triage before they sent us to labor and delivery. They were bad, my contractions, but not terrible. And then a doctor came in and said, do you want to get up there faster? And I said, well, I don't know, sure. And she said, well, if I break your water, then they're going to send you up there. But just don't tell any of the other doctors that I broke your water and it didn't break naturally.
So I arrived at the hospital. I was expecting the midwives to be there, and they weren't there. And then they took me to the operating room.
So she stuck her hand in to her elbow. Her hand to her elbow, and with her nail, broke the water. She takes her hand out, my water is broken. I'm having terrible contractions now. They take me to labor and delivery. They give me the epidural, I'm feeling better. I called everyone, I'm feeling happy. I'm like, baby's coming, everything's good. And all of a sudden, I have people coming to me with oxygen masks and feeling me. I had about 20 people in the little room.
And then all of a sudden, I felt like I was surrounded by nurses, and they were all saying, lie down now, lie down now. And I didn't know why. And I kept saying, why, what's going on? And then finally they kind of just guided me and they said, well, your legs are gonna fall asleep, you're gonna fall off the table.
And my husband's like, what's going on? They said to my husband, this is emergency C-section. She's got about a minute to live before we take her out. Her heart rate is at 0.
It sort of felt like an out-of-body experience. I kind of feel like I emotionally checked out.
I don't know how much anesthesia they gave me at that point, so I was knocked out. But knocked out to the point where I couldn't open my eyes, I couldn't feel anything.
I didn't even notice when they started the surgery.
They take the baby out. I had my eyes closed, I didn't even know. So about 6 hours passed, and I was finally able to hold her for the first time.
It almost doesn't feel like he's your baby because you don't feel anything at all. And in the wake of that, I felt like I have a baby, but I never gave birth to a baby. And that's a bit of a sadness with me.
What I found out later was that by breaking my water early, she went into the birth canal, but there was no water left, and she got stuck, and her heart rate stopped.
I do feel like I was robbed of the experience of having my baby. I spent 9 months carrying him and never gave birth.
It's all because they wanted to keep everybody moving, move things along quicker instead of let nature take its course.
Eu acredito que nessa sociedade industrial, dentro do hospital, o centro do parto é o médico.
Eu acho que tem um modelo de formação do profissional. É formado em cima de um conceito que ele que sabe tudo.
O parto onde a mulher é passiva. Não tem uma expressão maior. Cala a boca. O parto normal como é uma expressão da sexualidade de uma mulher, que é uma sociedade que castra a mulher nisso, porque é para roubar da mulher todo o poder que um parto tem. Isso tudo eu acho que faz parte do que a gente hoje transformou o parto na sociedade. Um grande negócio. Nós chamamos às vezes o business do nascimento.
Esse é o 3,600, não. So these are gifts that I received in the mail from the formula companies, Nestle and Enfamil. And I actually know my friends have received things from Similac as well. I have not, but just bottles and formula and coupons. I received a diaper bag from Nestle as well. The Enfamil I was not expecting. It actually arrived after the baby was born. And I'm not too sure exactly where they got my information from. I think it might have been from the hospital because this is the brand that the hospital uses. I have the measuring tape that they used to do Hunter's measurements right after he was born, where they marked, and it's actually branded Enfamil right from the hospital. So, and this bottle I know came from my prenatal classes at the hospital as well. They had them in a basket for everybody to pick up at the beginning of the class.
In the 1970s, it was so tragic for mothers who thought they were doing the best for their babies, and to see this horrendous consequence when they believed the billboards and the advertising and received these free samples, and to end up with a dead baby and have to carry their dead baby home in a cloth. It just broke my heart.
Many years, the government has faced the challenge of child mortality. But when it came to issues of now legislating the International Code of Breast Milk Substitutes, it was a long and tedious process. It requires an advocate because there were a lot of vested interests from private sector, and the was very resistant, extremely resistant. Kenya had a very unique situation. We had a public health and sanitation ministry, which was charged with preventive actions towards reduction of child mortality. When you look at the health budget, a huge chunk of it is spent on curative services. What is it that we are treating? What is it that we are curing? Many of them are diseases that are easily preventable. We quoted that exclusive breastfeeding can actually contribute to 13% reduction in infant mortality. To do all this, the investment sounds enormous, looks enormous. Indeed, it is enormous. If you want to go it alone, it may be almost not doable. But it is through partnerships and through integration, both into the media and into high-profile legislators. So the government is fully committed to educating. We are in discussion with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers to create awareness with the marketers and the producers of infant formula on what they can do and what they cannot do and what are the penalties at their own cost.
There are governments globally that have done very good work in addressing the marketing and have legislated how companies are permitted to market the product and label their product in their jurisdictions. Nevertheless, there are other countries, particularly producer countries, such as the US, Canada, some of the European countries, where the products are being produced and where there's a very strong lobby to protect the industry from these types of marketing regulations, because of course it would impede their ability to label and promote as they see fit.
It's a huge industry. They are lobbying for hospitals to give out their gift packages and information, and to doctors to recommend their products. They're not getting a gift basket with a breast pump or with supportive advice on how to breastfeed. They're getting it on how to get on the formula. The World Health Organization came out with guidelines that were adopted by many countries, and many countries implemented it, but the United States did not. Marketing is a huge business in our great country, and I believe there's an economic incentive to discourage women from breastfeeding. That whole industry makes a lot of money off of having packaged milk as opposed to breastfeeding, and the governmental policies supported their economic interests, not the health interests of the mother and the child.
The Philippines imports $500 million yearly of baby milk products. And the milk companies here in the Philippines, every year, they rake $1 billion sales every year. And that comes from the pocket of the poor women who have more children. It's a big issue. It's marketing by the milk companies of just one product, imported product, but glamorized through advertising. They will pay the politicians to endorse the product through television, through radio, magazines, billboards, even through text messages. There is no mercy with advertising of milk products. They entice the government officials, they entice the lawmakers to break the law and weaken the milk code.
I think there's this misconception that somehow Nestle is reformed and the other companies have pulled up their socks and become responsible. But if we look at the statistics that are being put out by UNICEF and by the WHO, it's still huge. It's still well over 1 million deaths related to not breastfeeding globally every year. And when we think of how many years this has been going and how many years the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes has been in place since 1981, and inappropriate marketing still continues, and we still have to struggle trying to implement these provisions to protect breastfeeding. And then you add up all the years and all the deaths, it's huge. And I think in any other context, if that many children died, I think we'd all be horrified and outraged, and we'd want to do all we can. And yet, year after year, we see the infant formula companies continuing their inappropriate marketing.
Legislation without sanctions is like a toothless bulldog. The strength of legislation is in the sanctions. Because a law is supposed to be a deterrent. Once the players know that if I do not comply to this law, there is an enforcer who will hit me with the law, and the law will hit me hard. So a law without penalties is of no use to the children it is supposed to protect.
Wala rin po kasi kami kinakain isang beses na sa isang araw. May nahihirapan po ako magpadede sa kanya kasi wala po naman yung ano.
Nestogin po yung gatas niya. Tapos, pag wala po akong pambiling gatas, asukal at tubig po, pinapadede ko sa kanya.
Yung anak ko, ganun pa rin yung timbang niya. Nakangamba rin ako. Dahil siguro sa bear brand na hindi naman dapat talaga painom sa kanya. Ngamba rin ako na ganun ng gatas sa bear brand.
Bakit bear brand yung binili mo?
Wala pong sapat na pera talaga pambili ng gatas.
Alam mo ba na yung bear brand parang puti lang siya, parang hindi para sa baby?
Opo.
Yung bear brand. This is bear brand. You can drink this as it is, powdered milk drink. This is the milk that they bought because this is the cheapest one. But unfortunately, it says here that this milk drink is not suitable for infant feeding and is not a breast milk substitute. But also this milk is, they also put this in coffee as like a coffee creamer. There is so much misinformation going on television, on the radio. There is omnipresence of formula milk everywhere. So a lot of mothers think that formula milk and breast milk are just the same. This isn't even formula. But they don't have a distinction between formula, really, because it's white. As long as it's white, it's the same.
The baby clothes are in these two buckets here that I'm washing, so later on I will just wash them out and put them up to dry.
She's just doing all this crazy stuff, hanging up all these baby clothes. She's just excited, I think it is. You excited?
Yeah.
I think so. But you need to get the water out of them.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, boy. Let me just start.
At this age, you know, you don't expect to become pregnant, you know? This came to me as a shock because I came up here for a better education and a better life. But then this happened. Some people, they think that, oh, when you're pregnant at 15, that's like the end of the world. But really, you still have to find hope somewhere. My mom, she stuck by me. She encouraged me that you have obstacles in your life and you have to find the strength to overcome. Although this wasn't her plan for me and it wasn't my plan for myself, she still stuck by me.
This child, I try to know it as much as I can before it comes. In other words, I'm trying to prepare myself. I will be honest, I still have that hurt. I still feel that anger. I don't want to see my grandchild as an imposition. I don't want to see my grandchild as an inconvenience. So, I have to think positive. That's why when I look at Keela, I could smile. So I have two babies, you know. I have a mommy baby and I have a baby baby. I have stories for my grandchild because her mother just doesn't leave me alone in my room.
She's a great mom. She knows how to make people happy. Just so it's nice to know that she's there, you know.
Now, what are you crying for?
Happy tears.
Happy tears.
Happy tears.
That's good.
Quando a pessoa chamando para ajudar uma criança a vir ao mundo, não importa se seja dia, se seja noite, eu vou com muito prazer ajudando essa vida a vir ao mundo por essas minhas mãos. Quando a mulher está sentindo dor aqui, a gente vai fazendo esse movimento assim de massagem dela. Você está ansiosa ou está tranquila?
Pouco nervosa, mas
se acalme, que está tudo bem com seu bebê e nós estamos aqui para lhe ajudar.
certo.
Quando tiver a hora do seu bebê ver perto de nascer, né? Depois nós vamos chamar a tia Ana para ficar aqui comigo.
Certo.
Fique tranquila. E agora deite para descansar, para recuperar as energias, para quando vir a dor de puxo, você tá forte.
Tá.
Eu vou ficar aqui ao seu lado. Esperar o bebê nascer.
So I'm dying to know, the problem of infant formula flooding into emergencies, is that still happening?
It's still happening with the big emergencies, where there's big media coverage.
Yes.
The Philippines has been here so many times.
Yes.
You know, we've had a
Yes.
number of emergencies.
Yes.
And yet again, there was devastation.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
everything was destroyed.
Yes.
Houses, so anyone's ability to cook, to shelter themselves, the fundamentals were just wiped out.
Pagtikanghan, bagyuhan, Yolanda, Damatan, November. Kung ako nag-asawa nga, na ito, panhapot at yung mga anak nagugpi, pangiwas kita din na balay, nasinganin nag-asawa. Ayaw na lang ito pag dinaraa, ito importante, kabataan, na mabuhi kita. Dada ito. Pag kusog ng hangin, kusugan na gud ang hangin, nagkakababra ng mga kao nga dagko. Lumiwat kami ng ibang room kay kuha naman kami ng kuhan tubig. Ang uran, kamakusog-kusog naman ang hangin. Minulugaran, Diyos ko.
There was an emergency response and there was a call for donations. Yet many of the humanitarian agencies on the ground were saying no, UNICEF, WHO, all their agencies saying no, we can do this. This is a breastfeeding population. It's the one thing that we don't have to bring into the place.
Yes.
The milk is there.
Yes.
We just need to support these women to breastfeed. And yet there's this donor-driven assistance comes in saying you need this formula. And where does it come from?
The Secretary of Health and the Secretary of Social Welfare immediately broadcasted over radio and TV that milk donations should be given without considering the consequence of diarrhea, of respiratory ailments, and all the risks involved on the health of the mothers and the children.
Maritiya pa kasusuna. Di da ko nahiyati kami pagtagaihin kuwanan panhatagan mga relief. May mga berbran, sugad itong takay kun waray naalpot nga relief kay waray mang berbran nga gatas. Nauukoy ito niya, nauukyan. May dangani naalpot nga relief din niya. Awan haamon, danay waray mang gatas nga upon. Tag-usaman lang. Tinikang na tiya pag ginasa. Nagpo-problema na ako kung takpo buhaton kay maray ko naman gatas. Kay wala man gatas nga igin. Pero kapag abot it gabi kay di kami nahingangaturo kay sige matiya tuok. Naakong ko din pag arohin gatas. O nagtay-tay. Takay daan ko kay ay. Dinugang ito niya kagasanan. Mumulbunayin nga mga ribs. And then nagtitinuok na nga na ko kay di rin na ito yan nakakaon. Naghihinigdaon na lang, nagpipina yung...
All of the affected households ended up getting formula, and only a third of infants used infant formula before the crisis, yet 3/4 of them had received infant formula within 24 hours.
And to me, that's marketing. Those people in the companies know that's going to increase death rates. I mean, they're not stupid people, they're clever people, and they have access to information. It's cynical marketing. And it breaks my heart, actually, that the media haven't got hold of the truth.
And they channel these milk donations through the Department of Social Welfare. All moms, every mom with a baby, outrightly given a donation of milk.
And it seems to me people still don't understand the harm that can be done. They still don't understand how women's bodies work.
And breastfeeding is a lifeline in emergencies, and that's just not appreciated.
Donations would come 1 month, 2 months, and on the 3rd month, no more donations coming to her. She's left by herself. in poverty, she's pushed to the wall. They think that this product is good, it's imported, it was given for free, it's a gift. So they'd rather give that than breastfeed.
My goodness, the water and sanitation. Yes. This child is at risk of diarrhea, of infection, and of death.
And if that baby's exclusively formula fed, there's a great risk, whether the water supply is contaminated, whether she's got the fuel for the sterilization. And it's quite a sort of, almost a surgical task to make up a bottle that's really safe.
Katong gihatag nila nga donation sa amo, ako gi timpla 10 days. Akong bana, ang trabaho na akong bana, extra pag-drive, tapos pag may kita siya, amo na akong gipapalit na ni Stugin. Agipainom ko na akong bata kay nistud siya na hinaluan ko ng ginling na bigas. Kumanto ako center, pa-check up ko na akong bata, tapos giningnan man ko na malnourished man siya. Kulang sa timbang.
Months after the typhoon, the Department of Health and other international aid agencies come together to assess. There were reports that many of these babies that they give medical attention are formula fed. And they declared that 50% of children 0 to 5 who were devastated are suffering from severe malnutrition.
If you're going to give infant formula for a baby, you've got to ensure that it will be for the rest of its feeding life. So if Danone or Nestle or Mead Johnson come along and say, we're donating formula, they are responsible for seeing that it is for 2 years' supply for that individual child.
My water broke when I was in gym class, and then I called my mom, and then she told me to call the doctor. I was in labor for about 30 hours. She was literally pushing, she was trying to get out, but it's just, I wasn't wide enough. So then we talked about it, me and my mom and the doctors. I decided to get the C-section.
Imagine my daughter going to have a C-section. At first, I was going to be in the room with them, but as much as they tried to give her the anesthetic to numb the bottom, it wasn't working, so they had to knock her out completely. The waiting, it was like almost excruciating for me. But thank God when I heard that baby cried, I knew she was healthy. The voice, it was so strong and pronounced. Now I'm a grandmother. The feeling is it's not much different. I have to make a conscious effort to differentiate the two.
knowing that Pia is my granddaughter and Keela is my daughter. Her daughter is not my daughter. Her daughter is my granddaughter. Keela looks at her and she's so in awe of this beautiful child. Keela's pumping. She's making an adequate amount, but baby, for some reason, didn't latch onto the breast from the beginning, so she had formula from the beginning.
Since I wanted everything to go naturally, which it didn't, chest to chest after birth experience, that didn't happen because also I was in a C-section and I was sleeping, and then the breastfeeding after birth, that didn't happen either because I was still sleeping. My whole plan of natural totally failed. It didn't come through.
I'm a little upset that they didn't help Keela to allow the baby to latch a lot better in the hospital before she came home. I wish it was different after all. I would have preferred not to have to buy formula, obviously. When it comes to finances, I can do a pretty good juggling act these days. I took some time off from work because Keela's still in school. I spoke with her long before she had baby, and I said, at the end of the day, you go to school, you gain your education, because eventually she will know the story. She will know how young you were when you had her. So what you need to do now is focus and be positive and live your life that when she grows up, she will be proud of you.
Babies that are born at very low birth weight, that is less than 1,500 grams, they're very fragile. For very low birth weight babies, mother's own milk is not just nutrition, it's also medicine. It protects them against the most important complications of being born preterm. It's really the most important thing that we can do for our patients to protect their health, to promote their growth, and to promote their long-term development. It's a very stressful event to have a baby in the intensive care unit. It can take longer for a mother's milk to come in. Our goal behind the milk bank is to provide human milk as a bridge until the time that the mother's own milk can come in.
Cole was born 8 days ago, 26 weeks and 1 day. And we really wanted him to have every possible advantage and to do everything we could for him. So we signed the forms knowing that that gave the opportunity to give him donor milk as soon as possible, as soon as he needed it. So there would always be breast milk available for him. It's one of the greatest gifts that someone could have given me because a mother's milk, whether mine or someone else's, is always the best option.
There were milk banks prior to 1985, And unfortunately, when HIV came, the majority of the milk banks were closed. It was just a group who saw the need for donor milk, who brought the proposal forward to the hospital administrators, who brought the proposal forward to the Ministry of Health, that allowed us to get funding and to build the milk bank. The milk bank first began dispensing milk in April 2013.
Now I am successfully pumping my own milk, and I bring it into the hospital and they can give it to him on a syringe with a tube. One of the things that they do to soothe him, since we can't pick him up and hold him, is they will do a swab of my breast milk and rub it in his mouth, and that does calm him down. I am able to touch him. I can put my hands around him, hold his hand, hold his foot, and I'm really looking forward to the day where I can actually pick him up and hold him.
A missão do Corpo de Bombeiros é a proteção de vidas. Sendo que o leite é o nosso alimento, primeiro, nós achamos importante que esse recolhimento do leite para essas crianças sejam fundamentais para que elas cresçam fortes e saudáveis. Estamos cerca de 25 anos com essa missão de recolhimento de leite. São 35 mil visitas por ano. Nos sentimos na obrigação, já que temos a função de proteger vidas e bens, a ajudar essas pessoas a conseguir o alimento.
Tudo bem?
Tudo bem.
Como é que você passou a semana?
Bem, graças a
E
Deus.
você, bebê? Como é que foi? Cadê o sorriso da tia? Você conseguiu tirar o leite?
Consegui, sim.
É? Quantos potes?
Tirei 4.
Ah, então vamos lá pegar?
Vamos.
Deus, quanto tempo que tem o Kaique?
7 meses.
É? E você doa quanto tempo?
Desde uma semana que eu cheguei em casa, já liguei pro bombeiro e vim buscar o leite.
É? E você acha importante doar leite materno?
Muito importante, porque ele precisou lá no hospital mesmo, né? O leite doado de lá foi o alimento dele, que a gente ficou internado, então eu fiquei muito emocionada. Aí resolvi doar do que ficar derramando leite, né?
A rede de banco de leite humano do Brasil iniciou-se em 1943. Ele foi criado para resolver a questão de mortalidade das crianças prematuras e baixo peso, que era o único alimento que significava sobrevida desses bebês. A partir de 1985, a gente tem o advento da AIDS. Em muitos países, os bancos de leite que existiam foram se fechando. O poderio econômico das indústrias e fórmulas chega a esse grupo de médicos que este é um produto bom, que não tem risco. E isso é difícil de vencer. Enquanto outros foram se fechando, o nosso processo foi se formalizando. Temos trabalhos científicos provando o nosso processo de pasteurização. Temos a garantia de que o vírus de HIV ele morre durante o processo. Todo esse trabalho do Brasil foi reconhecido em 2001 pela Organização Mundial de Saúde. Quem teve o melhor papel na redução da mortalidade infantil na década de 90 no mundo. Estamos atualmente com 23 países que participam da rede com bancos de leite humanos. No Brasil, cerca de 170 mil mulheres doam leite materno por ano e 175 mil prematuras recebem o leite humano de banco.
Avec Facebook, j'ai rencontré des personnes qui avaient le même point de vue que moi sur l'allaitement et sur le lait maternel et qui ont des idées similaires. C'est de là qu'est parti un certain nombre d'initiatives pour la promotion de l'allaitement et du lait maternel. Il y en a une qui a été créée qui s'appelle Human Milk for Human Babies France, qui est une page sur laquelle on propose aux mamans des offres pour donner du lait maternel, pour qu'elles puissent se mettre en contact avec des mamans qui ont un besoin ou qui offrent du lait. Ça me prend quelques minutes par jour et j'ai l'impression de rendre service aux mamans et aux bébés.
Quand tu l'as déposé à l'école, il n'y a pas de maîtresse, oui.
On a aidé des mamans plusieurs fois. On a des mamans qui adoptent, on a des mamans qui ont le sida, on a des mamans qui ont des cancers du sein, qui ne peuvent pas allaiter, donc qui sont passées par notre page pour trouver du lait pour leur bébé.
Bah, plus de sel pour Nina alors.
From the very start, I really wanted to breastfeed my baby. My milk supply was not enough, so I have to search for some milk donations. Somebody told me to post on Human Milk for Human Babies Philippines. I saw there that there are milk requests and milk donations. And then many mommies, they texted me and called me for their milk donations.
I'm a first-time mom. I don't have any supply because when I put her at my breast, she's always crying. I was so scared that maybe my baby will, if she's hungry, then eventually, if she's not fed, she will die. I go to the community and look for mothers who are breastfeeding and ask for their milk. I do it all the time. Every day we wake up, I always told my baby, we will go to my neighbors, to my friends that I know. I even ask my friends, if you're breastfeeding, can I have your milk or can I bring you my baby and then you can teach her how to latch. So unfortunately, if they're busy, then me and my baby will go home empty pocket.
3 mommies donated milk, so I got 25 bags of milk.
I breastfed 182 babies, and I'm proud to be a wet nurse. Every time the baby latches on my breast, it feels so fulfilling, and they like my children also. I can help them. I can give them my breast milk without any question.
I don't have any concerns about the health conditions of the donating mothers because I think they are preparing their milk for their own babies, so it's still safe for other babies too.
How about you, Joyce?
I also experienced asking for milk from a stranger. I don't know her, but it takes a lot of guts. You don't know the mother, you don't know what they eat, or you don't know their lifestyle. Maybe your baby will get sick, but every time I look at my baby, gives me the power that it doesn't matter if you know her or not. It's for your baby.
It is the responsibility of the family, the community, that they should be given the use of natural resources, like indigenous foods. The food is just around the community. Our islands is 7,101 islands, full of calcium-rich foods, full of protein-rich foods. It should not be a food that would disempower, especially the mothers. These women are the ones who are vulnerable. They have no power economically and politically. They should be given the encouragement, the education, the latest information on how to feed their babies. Oh, yes. Gawin na raw sa home. Oh. Ito naman si Pinya. Ito sana, ipapakulo yun sa sabaw. Huwag niyo itatapon. Kasi pwede ito pampasarap. The government should recognize investing a social support, enabling women for this nurturing power to have a healthy population. This is the least cost, most effective, efficient action to respond to their needs. Give the mom an access to appropriate food. No child will go hungry. Ito naman po ay aalis Pinya.
As a working mother and one who had a child while I was in the city council, I was the first woman to give birth while in office. Many men had fathered children, but I was the first councilwoman to give birth while in office. And I raised my daughters while I was working. I even had a filing cabinet, and I made it into a sort of a nursery bed. I remember I called my Health and Human Services office and said, I'm going to have a child. What are your policies for leave? The answer was, we have no policies. Women just leave. I said, I don't intend to leave. I intend to come back to work. They said, you could apply for disability. And I said, the birth of a child is not a disability. I refuse to apply for disability to become a mother. We are alone among 3 countries that don't give paid leave. One is Swaziland, Lesotho, and the United States of America. We know that women are working and they have to work. One of the bills that I've introduced is to give paid leave for the birth of a child for 2 weeks. That's just 2 weeks. Most people need their salary, and this would help them with the expenses of having a new child. I think it's the right thing to do. I believe in it. I'm trying to do it. I've had a bill in. I passed it once in the House, and it did not pass in the Senate, but I will continue trying.
The maternity leave is in the Employment Act. This is one area where we partner very strongly with the trade union movement so that every employer can be able to provide maternity leave and to see the benefits for themselves and to their employee. And that employee should not be penalized in any way. They get full salary, they come back to their previous job without loss of any seniority, they also get their annual leave. So this is now a joint partnership. All the leaders of the trade union movement, they are on the forefront of championing this cause. These are all benefits as responsible governments we must protect.
I believe as you get more women elected, they will carry more of a women's agenda. We are roughly 20% of the United States Congress. We are 50% of the population. So to get true parity, you would have to elect a great deal more women.
Attends, maman, elle va mettre la petite pompe pour pouvoir tirer le lait pour Diane, tu te souviens, hein? Ça, c'est maman, tu sais, c'est le petit appareil. Voilà, on va mettre...
Je pense que certaines femmes de la génération d'avant, elles ont tellement dû se battre pour avoir les postes qu'elles ont aujourd'hui. Je remercie toutes ces femmes qui ont bossé et parce que c'est elles qui nous permettent aussi maintenant d'accéder à des postes de direction que nos mamans n'avaient pas forcément la possibilité d'avoir. Allez, on y va. C'est parti. Oh mon bébé. Petit bébé d'amour. Maman revient vite, d'accord? Allez.
Bon voyage.
Merci. Au revoir. Maman revient vite.
Maman revient, t'inquiète pas.
D'accord?
Maman revient.
Bisous.
Au revoir.
Bisous mon bébé d'amour.
Au revoir.
Ciao.
Ciao. Maman revient. Ne t'inquiète pas, elle va revenir. Elle va revenir, elle va revenir.
Je pense qu'on peut être mère, femme, enfin, quelqu'un qui fait une carrière. Je pense qu'on peut y arriver. C'est à l'aéroport. Je pense que c'est en cela aussi où je suis féministe, où je pense qu'on n'a pas à nous imposer, parce qu'on veut une carrière, de ne pas allaiter ou de ne pas pouvoir prendre du temps pour ses enfants aussi.
Op mijn werk, ja, ik ben alvast een keertje naar mijn werk gegaan en ik heb toen het woord kolfruimte gewoon een paar keer laten vallen. Maar ja, dat gaat toch straks komen. En ik merkte aan mijn baas dat er geen seconde over na had gedacht. Inderdaad, ik wil liever ook niet in de wc, maar als het inderdaad een wc, dat mag iets beter dan de wc, dan hoop ik dat dat gaat lukken. wel een beetje alsof je op de barricade moet, omdat je het voelt als je de eerste bent. En je wil juist gewoon terug gaan werken, ook omdat ik mijn werk heel leuk vind. En denk van nou, en ik wil dan niet zo'n moeder zijn, dat is dan het beeld dat je hebt. Maar ik vind dat wel lastig, inderdaad. Ik denk dat als het...
C'est une nouvelle forme de féminisme. C'est un féminisme où on veut à la fois ce que les hommes ont, le travail, l'argent, l'autodétermination, mais on veut aussi ce qui est propre aux femmes, enfanter, choisir d'avoir tant d'enfants et choisir d'allaiter si on souhaite allaiter. Donc elles veulent tout, en fait.
I'm absolutely the exception, being the mom who's formula feeding. When you pull out a bottle in a circle full of moms, everybody looks. Everyone's kind of curious, and that's okay. I don't mind the curiosity, but it's something different. It didn't bother me to watch other women breastfeed or to have them breastfeeding in the room any more than it should bother somebody that I'm bottle feeding in a room.
Can you wait too long to change your diaper?
I did feel I was questioned for my decision, which I thought was strange. You know, why did you choose to bottle feed? I don't ask women why they choose to breastfeed. I felt that I had to justify my decision. I stuck to my guns on this one. I know I did what was best for me in the face of a lot of opposition, and I stuck to what I felt was most important, and it's worked really well for us.
There are some people who are so judgmental. Yeah. They're like very gung-ho, like, oh my God, how dare you?
But, you know, they're so hardcore, and it's fun. Like, I'm kind of hardcore too. I think breastfeeding is, you know, the best thing you can do for your baby if you're able to, but when you're someone like me and you're not able to, there's no, like, it's okay, do this, and, you know, it's fine to use a bottle sometimes. It's like one or the other.
He would not drink. He used to have 1 bottle of formula a day, and I felt so guilty. Like, really guilty. People push ideas. I was so busy listening to, you know, all these attachment parenting blogs or the pediatrician or the consultant, and I forgot to listen to him. Sorry.
I thought it was okay. I could understand the reasons. They said there might be a man or a nervous child seeing this small piece of flesh that they weren't quite expecting. So I whispered and tiptoed with nervous discretion. But after 6 months of her life sat sitting on lids, sipping on milk, nostrils sniffing on piss, trying not to bang her head on toilet roll dispensers, I wonder whether these public loo feeds offend her. Because I'm getting tired of discretion and being polite. As my baby's first sips are drowned, drenched in shite, I spent the first feeding months of her beautiful life feeling nervous and awkward and wanting everything right. Surrounded by family till I stepped out the house. It took me 8 weeks to get the confidence to go into town. Now the comments around me cut like a knife as I rush into toilet cubicles feeling nothing like nice. Because I'm giving her milk that's not in a bottle. Wishing the cocaine generation white powder would topple. I see pyramid sales pitches across our green globe and female breasts banned, unless they're out just for show. And the more I go out, the more I can't stand this. I walk into town, feel I'm surrounded by bandits, because in this country of billboards covered in tits, and family newsagent magazines full of it. W.H. Smith top shelves out for men, why don't you complain about them then? In this country of billboards covered in tits, and family newsagent magazines full of it. W.H. Smith top shelves out for men, I'm getting embarrassed in case a small flash of flesh might offend. And I'm not trying to parade it. I don't want to make a show. But when I'm told I'd be better just staying at home, and when another friend I know is thrown off a bus, then another mother told to get out of a pub, even my grandma said maybe I was sexing it up. And I'm sure the milk makers love all this fuss, all the cussing and worry and looks of disgust, as another mother turns from nipples to powder, ashamed or embarrassed by comments around her, and as I hold her head up and pull my cardi across, and she sips on the liquor made by everyone's God, I think for God's sake Jesus drank it. So did Siddhartha, Muhammad and Moses and both of their fathers, Ganesh and Shiva and Brigid and Buddha, and I'm sure they weren't doing it, sniffing on shit as their mothers sat embarrassed on cold toilet lids in a country of billboards covered in tits. In a country of low-cut tops, cleavage and skin, in a country of cloth bags and recycling bins, and as I desperately try to take all of this in. Hold her head up. I can't get my head round the anger towards us and not to the sound of lorries offloading formula milk into countries where water runs dripping in filth. In towns where breasts are oases of life, now dried up in 2-for-1 offers enticed by labels and logos and gold standard rights claiming breast milk is healthier, powdered and white, packaged and branded and sold at a price so that nothing is free in this money-fueled life, which is fine if you need it or prefer to use bottles, where water is clean and bacteria boiled. But in towns where they drown in pollution and sewage, bottled kids die, and they knew that they'd do it. In towns where pennies are savoured like sweets, we're now paying for one thing that's always been free. In towns empty of hospital beds, babies die, diarrhea fueled that breast milk would end. So no more will I sit on these cold toilet lids, no matter how embarrassed I feel as she sips. Because in this country of billboards, covered in tits, I think I should try to get used to this.
As fraldas, essas aí. Não dá. Respire, respire bem fundo. Respire. Oxigênio seu bebê pra você, viu? Respire. 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 Bora, bora. Fecha as pernas, não. Respira bem fundo, vá. Com a boca aberta, bem fundo. Isso, bem fundo, vá. Pra não machucar. Bora. Bora, bora. Respire. Vá. Respire bem muito, vá. Vá, respire mais. Respire. Respire. Respira, bebê. Sora, mamãe. Bota o pano. Aqui em cima dele, só em cima. Tira esse pano aí. Rompeu não. Tá perfeito. Viva Deus, viva Nossa Senhora do Bom Parto, viva a Força Encantada, viva as parteiras. Muito obrigada.
Yang